We see a person for a split second, and we think we know who they are. We read a headline, and we're certain we understand the whole story. Our brain is a master storyteller, but it has a dangerous habit. It writes the entire story based on only the first sentence. In his Nobel Prize-winning work, psychologist Daniel Kahneman revealed just how easily our minds jump to conclusions and how confident we become in those conclusions, even when they're built on almost nothing. What if the greatest freedom you could achieve was the freedom from being certain? In this episode, we dive into one of the most important books on how our minds work and learn the simple questions that can protect us from the overconfidence trap. Join me, and let's learn how to become a wise editor of our own thoughts, not just a passive believer. I once worked on a project with a man who was brilliant. In meetings, he was sharp, articulate, and charismatic. He presented his ideas with such effortless confidence that everyone in the room, including me, was instantly won over. We assigned him a critical leadership role based on these first impressions. We had our story about him. He was a star. A few months later, the project was in chaos. Deadlines were being missed, and communication had broken down. It turned out that his incredible presentation skills masked a complete lack of organizational ability and follow-through. Our initial story was compelling, but it was also dangerously incomplete. We were so dazzled by the one chapter we read that we assumed we knew how the whole book ended. This experience isn't unique. It's a perfect illustration of a fundamental feature of our minds, a concept explored in depth by the Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman in his masterpiece, Thinking Fast and Slow. He calls this feature "What you see is all there is," or WYSAIT. It means that our minds, specifically the fast, intuitive part Kahneman calls System 1, are designed to take whatever limited information is available and immediately weave a coherent, believable story around it. Our brain doesn't pause to ask, wait, what crucial information might I be missing? It works only with the evidence at hand and treats it as if it's the only evidence that exists. To see how powerful this is, Kahneman shares a simple example from his own life regarding something he calls the halo effect. As a professor, he had to grade student essays. He observed that if a student's first essay was excellent, he had a very difficult time grading their second essay poorly. A halo from the first brilliant answer shone over the second mediocre one. His System 1 had already jumped to a conclusion. This is a brilliant student. He writes that to counteract this bias, he had to adopt a new method. He would read and score every single student's first essay, and only then would he move on to the second essay, ensuring the halo from one student didn't unfairly influence his judgment. He had to consciously force his brain not to jump to conclusions. He had to remind it that what it had seen was not all there was. Take a moment to think about a time you formed a strong first impression of someone, positive or negative. What one or two traits was that impression based on, and how did that halo color everything else you saw about them? Kahneman illustrates this further with a thought experiment. Consider a political candidate described with just two words: intelligent and strong. Immediately, your mind begins to build a story. You probably infer that this person is a capable leader, someone you could trust. You've taken two positive data points and your mind has created a coherent positive narrative. Now, what if I add a third word? Corrupt. Notice the mental effort it takes to fit that in. The word clashes with the story your brain has already written. It creates a cognitive strain. But what if the first two words had been corrupt and strong? You would have built a completely different, sinister character from the start, and adding the word intelligent would only have reinforced that negative story. This is WYSIATI in action. The sequence and availability of information dictate the entire story our mind tells itself. And once that story is written, we become incredibly confident in it. This isn't a flaw in our thinking. It's a feature designed for a world that required fast, good enough decisions for survival. But in our complex modern world, it leads to the overconfidence trap. It's why we make snap judgments about people based on their appearance. It's why we feel certain about an investment after reading one positive article. It's why we believe we understand a complex political issue after seeing a 30-second news clip. Our brain takes the fragment, treats it as the whole picture, and slams the gavel of judgment. So how do we break free? The solution is not to get rid of our fast, intuitive System 1. We need it. The solution is to learn when to slow down and consciously engage our slow, logical System 2. It's about cultivating the habit of asking simple but powerful questions before we accept our brain's first draft of reality. The first question is, what information might I be missing? This question forces us to acknowledge the vast ocean of what we don't know, which lies just beyond the tiny island of what we do. The second question, which Kahneman champions, is to consider the opposite. Ask, what is the evidence that contradicts my initial conclusion? This actively seeks out information that could break the coherent story your mind has so quickly created. Take a moment to think about an opinion you hold with great confidence. What would it look like to genuinely search for the strongest argument against your own view? The journey to mental freedom is not about achieving a perfect, bias-free mind. It's about developing a new relationship with our own thoughts. It's the shift from being an unconscious believer of every story our brain tells us to becoming a wise and curious editor. We can learn to appreciate our brain's amazing ability to find patterns and make quick judgments, while also holding those judgments lightly. We can learn to say, my first impression is this, but what else might be true? In that pause, in that single moment of questioning, lies an incredible power. It's the power to move beyond the illusion that what we see is all there is. Your brain will always write the first draft. The freedom is in remembering that you have the power to write the second. This week, I invite you to catch yourself in one moment of making a snap judgment. It could be about a person in traffic, a news headline, or even yourself. Don't judge the judgment, just pause and gently ask the question, what am I not seeing here? Let that question hang in the air. You don't even need to answer it. Just asking is the beginning of a profound change. Thank you for joining me on the Freedom Equation. Protect your peace.